Okay. Yan. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the first UFS Philippines Masterclass with Chef Ken Cacho. Thank you for being with us this afternoon for this blistering summer afternoon. So thank you for logging in. So I think we're waiting for more people to log in before we can officially start. So I am Chef Brando Santos, one of the senior sous chefs of Unilever Food Solutions Philippines, and I will be your host for this afternoon. We will be tackling food costing for this afternoon. One of the more in demand webinar sessions last year when we graced the shows of RJ Ledesma and the Resto Coach. So mostly puro food costing ang nare-request ng mga viewers. So this one, hopefully this afternoon will be very enriching for all who are going to attend. And if you have any questions, we will open the lines later on for clarification, questions, and a lot more. So let's just hold on for a bit. Okay, so we're waiting for more people. So waiting for go signal of Richard. We'd also like to welcome the rest of the Unilever Food Solutions team who are in the background, mga behind the scenes team. So we have Isabel, we have Saki, we have Lorraine, and syempre Richard. Okay, also like to welcome Unilever Food Solutions family who are already online. The culinary team, CDEs, sales teams, if you're here. Okay, so I think we can begin. Okay. All right, so again, this is Unilever Food Solutions Masterclass with Chef Ken Cacho. Increasing your food business profit. So for this afternoon, you will be learning how to standardize recipe costs, maximize your ingredients, and we'll teach you more practical cooking hacks and techniques.
Are we on?
I can hear you, Chef Ken. And I can see your video as well. Okay, so let's begin. So next slide, chart. Okay, so we'll break how is our afternoon going to be about. So food costing essentials, we'll do a 15-minute session on this. And then we'll also discuss food costing tools and a demo by Chef Kenneth. So it's going to be 45 minutes for this session. And then the latter part, we'll have our Q&A. Okay, that's going to be 15 minutes for Q&A. Okay, next slide. And again, as I've said, if you have any questions, just click on the Q&A icon in your Zoom account and then plug in your question. And later on, we will consolidate and we will have the question and answer. So feel free to just ask and type away your questions for this afternoon. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Again, the icon, Q&A icon. So for this afternoon, we are privileged to have first ever masterclass with Chef Ken Cacho. Just a brief background on Chef Ken. He's currently our country executive chef for Unilever Food Solutions Philippines. He was also the campus director of International School for Culinary Arts and Hotel Management, or ISCOM, in Pampanga from 2013 to 2019. And he was a prolific culinary competitor in the Philippine Culinary Cup, having won the 2019 Chef of the Year award. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2 times siya na napanalunan yan. I think it was 2015. Basta siya na napanalunan yan. So we are very blessed to have Chef Ken Cacho doing the masterclass for this afternoon. So without further ado, thank you for stay tuned, everyone. And Chef Ken Cacho, welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Chef Brando. Good afternoon, everyone. Joining us today. You know, I'm so happy. This is really happening now,
and it's live, you know. So today, we're going to be tackling a very, very interesting topic, no? And it's food costing. Ito yung tipong everyone is just like parang so scared to do it. In reality, it's super easy and super important that we have to understand and do. Okay, so I'll be going through a very quick way of doing things in the kitchen. Now, mind you, what we'll be preparing today is super simple. I just want you to really understand, you know, the proper way of costing. In the end, there's so many ways of doing it. Okay, hundreds of ways how people do their costing. But in reality, there's really it's really important like that we have to understand the process on why we have to make sure we do a proper food costing and a proper recipe, okay, for us to create a proper, you know, well, a good income in the end, okay? Okay, so first thing, what is food cost? Okay, everyone says, pag narinig nila food cost, ano yun, math na naman, mag-add, subtract, divide na naman ako, you know, and really, it's super easy, okay? So I'll be guiding you today. Now, food cost, what it means, it's just basically all of the ingredients that you need, okay, to produce a particular dish. Okay, today I'll be cooking later on a very simple lechon kawali. You know, it's just lechon kawali, but it's really more of how I break it down into a recipe. Okay, that makes it interesting. Okay, so anything that that I need to create a dish, okay, is part of a food cost. All right. Now it does not include cost, the other costs. Okay, ito yung operational cost and also the overhead cost. Okay, so iba yon, no? So food cost just means anything that that's related to food expense, okay, to create a dish. Now, it's also a very essential tool in creating our food cost targets. At the same time, how for us to create a selling price, we need to know what the food cost is, okay? Next. All right, so the most important thing is setting a cost target. I would love to call this one a margin, okay? A margin, basically, it creates this parang layer, okay, wherein it tells you hanggang dyan ka lang, okay? You don't spend more than that, all right? And that's basically setting a cost target, okay? Aside from setting the food cost, from making a food cost, you create your targets, okay? So this keeps your overhead, your labor costs, and also your food costs under control, okay? So it creates that margin. And then it also determines how much you can spend, okay, to create, you know, your dish. How much should I spend? How much can I play with? You know, hindi ka pwede gastos lang dito, gastos doon. You have to make sure everything is controlled. In the end, it's all about making money, diba? So for us to make money, we need to control. And lastly, it helps you decide, okay, how to price your products. And that's the most important thing. With so much competition happening nowadays, okay, we need to make sure our prices stay relatively lower or at least the same, okay, as our competitors. Okay, so we have to price it smart. At the same time, we have to price it wisely. Okay, and also for us, we need to make sure the price gives us a good income in the end. Okay, all right. Guys, I'm sorry, it's super hot today, so bear with me. Okay, I'm in the kitchen and everything's just really warm, no? So anyway, bear with me. Okay, so food businesses aim to run a profit of it. The only aim that a business has to do is make sure that it makes profit. Okay, that's the number one, and I guess for me, that's the ultimate thing. You know, kaya ano pa na may business ka and it doesn't make money. You know, we're not doing this pro bono. We're not feeding anyone. We're feeding customers that would actually gives us a good income. Okay, so two things. One is we need to strategize. Okay, and the second one is we have to make a long-term goal. Okay, to strategize, okay, we have to make sure we sell really good products, really good cuisine, really good food, properly presented food, good price. Very important. Okay, yun ang strategy natin. And at the same time, our long-term goal is to make sure consistently we earn a profit. That's the end all and be all of business. You know, you have to make a good profit. Okay, so that's what we have to make sure we understand. All right. Okay, now ideally, a food cost percentage, okay, has to be at in the range of 35%. That's a standard range that we're looking at, about 30 to about 40, 45 max, no? But let's keep it safe, always 35. I always use a 35% rule, okay, and to make sure that we're always, secured, and always we have a good margin in the end. All right. So in the end, 35% is our ideal food cost percentage, meaning, okay, I'll do a quick explanation. So if you have, 35% food cost, take for example, a hamburger. Okay, a hamburger for 100 pesos. This is so simple. If my food cost is 35%, it means that for me to create a hamburger that I'm planning to sell for 100 pesos, I have to make a hamburger with only 35 pesos. That should include the bun, that should include the protein or the meat, the lettuce, the tomatoes, the dressings, etc. that goes with the burger. So from 100 pesos, 35% of that is 35 pesos. So 35 pesos lang yung aking margin to create a burger. Now, so you'll be left with 65 pesos, di ba? So that 65 pesos is what we call our markup or our margin. Okay, 65 pesos doesn't mean it's my income or my profit. Well, it's an income, but it's not really a profit yet. Okay, because profit is anything that you make excess of all your costs. Okay, so lahat, alisin mo lahat ng gastos mo, that's your profit. Diba? So that's 65%. Okay, just to give you context lang para mas madalian kayo. All right, a good way to actually balance things is to create, okay, a breakdown of that 65%. And basically, you're taking out three expenses there. Well, three items there. One is the operating cost. The second one is the overhead cost. And the other one is the profit. Okay, operating cost. Ano ba yung difference nun sa overhead? Di ba? Pareho lang yun. Well, in reality, it's the same. But for us to really, parang break it down into detail, an operating cost involves labor. Anything that is, any expense that's incurred during your business operation. Okay, anything incurred. Okay, so nandiyan yung labor. Ano ba? Nandiyan din yung equipment. If I need to purchase equipment, if I need to rent equipment to produce, nandiyan yan. What else? Could be some variables. For example, like today I'll be making Lechon Kawali. Okay, and I'm using oil for my fryer. So that could be part of that. Even packaging can be also added in there, just to run the operation on a daily basis. Now, the overhead costs are fixed costs. Ito yung at the end of the month, manginginig ka, naku, magbabayad na naman ako ng renta. Magbabayad na naman ako ng water, ng electricity. So fixed costs yan. So in reality, it's very difficult to play around with because fixed yan eh. Ang operating cost, you could play around with it. Meaning, you could actually make a better profit by lowering down your operating cost, by saving on labor, saving on equipment purchase, etc. Okay, and the last one is the profit. Now, the breakdown of that 65%, so inalisan natin yung 35%, di ba? Food yan, food cost lang yan. But the 65%, out of that, 20% would go to operating costs, operational costs. 30% would go to overhead or fixed costs, okay? And 15% would go to your profit. Okay? So parang ang liit lang nun, di ba? Parang 15%. Kaya normally, ang nangyayari, people think, if I make 100% markup, assuming, for example, 35 pesos, tubuan ko yan ng 100% markup, di 70 pesos na. Akala nila yung 35 pesos na yun, kita na. Bulsa ko na yun. Hindi. You have to, again, put a margin. Because without that margin, you'll spend all of that money. You'll think it's an income already. It's a profit already. You put that margin, again, the margin is 20% operating, 30% for the overhead cost. Okay? I hope you get that clear. All right? Now, food costing tools. All right. Very simple. Okay. For us to create a food cost, which is the most important step first for us to create a selling price, is that we need to first make a yield test. And at the same time, we have to create a proper standardized recipe. Okay. Ano ba yung yield test? I'll show you a yield test because I'm making again a lechon kawali. Very, very simple. Okay, lechon kawali. Okay, so a yield test basically it's like a butcher test. It could be done before cooking or it can also be done after cooking. In this case, I'm going to do it before the cooking process. All right, so I'm going to butcher a piece of pork, and then later on I'll explain the breakdown, okay, on how I do it. Okay, so join me. I'll now, okay, break down a piece of pork. So I have here a kilo, okay, a kilo of pork belly. Okay, again, I'm creating a lechon kawali, no? Chef Brando, how's everything? Everything okay?
Yeah.
Are
I'm
there
so
any
amazed.
questions?
Wala pa yata. We will gather all the questions and
Okay.
yeah. So, Chef, magkano bili mo dyan sa
Right.
pork belly mo rin?
Okay, so I have here a kilo of pork belly. All right.
Kilo.
Very
Magkano na ba
important
kilo
in
ngayon yan?
costing also is that we make sure we get the right ingredients, okay? Because part of the wastage is you not sourcing out good quality ingredients. Sometimes mas mahal yung may quality, okay, most of the time, but in the end you get a much more bigger yield because mas less ang wastage. Okay? So in this case, this is fairly a good, nice piece of belly. If you could see, no, konti lang yung fat niya, nice, nice layering of fat and meat proportion. Okay? Now, me personally, I don't like to eat, when I have lechon kawali, I don't like the bone. No? Okay lang yung soft bone, but the bone, I normally would remove it. Okay? So, this is 1 kilo exactly. Just lang to create, an easier breakdown for you to understand. Okay, so if I were serving, in a standalone karinderya, for example, I would try to make use of everything. I will not even look at, trimming because, the trimming is again a wastage already on in this case. No, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim it, okay, just to give it a nice shape. Okay, and at the same time, I'll explain later on what I'll do with the other with the trimmings. Okay, so in this case, I just want to cut this, okay, to a nice shape. Okay, all right. Medyo mahaba. Okay. So I'm removing the skin. Okay. All right. So if I have bones here, I would remove the bones. Again, I don't like the bones simply because when I eat into my lechon kawali, I want it, crunchy. Ayoko nung may sumasabit. Okay, so I take off this soft bone there. All right, so that's basically it. No, again, it's a good quality piece of meat. I don't have to do too much with it. It's a nice piece of meat, not too much trimming. So I would assume, okay, for in this case, I will make sure I take out all of the meat. As ito yung number one na nangyayari most of the time is that people neglect this part of butchering. Why? Because for them, parang it's a waste of time. Second, in the end, a butcher can do it for them. They would actually but in reality, it's cheaper to purchase your own meat, whole, and then you try to butcher it, and then eventually make use of all of the trimmings. So I have here some trimmings. So here about 5% of, it's about 50 grams of the bones. Okay, some skin, about 50 grams, and then also about 100 grams of meat left. No, kita mo yan, meat, hindi naman tapon yan, ano? So,
So
that's
marirecycle
still
pa yan, Chef.
usable trimmings. Okay, now this is going to be used for my lechon kawali, which I will show you later on how to cook it. Okay, now I just want to first show you and explain to you the breakdown of my trimmings. Okay, let me share that screen. All right, so if you look at this, if you look at the screen now, okay, I purchased a 1 kilo piece of meat. All right, now I purchased it for 380 pesos. Imagine, dati ang kilo ng baboy is only how much? 250, 280. Ngayon 380. Super, no? Parang 80, 90 peso, 100 peso, Sometimes mapapaisip ka, magababoy pa ba ako or mag-steak na lang ako, no? Halos pareho na lang yung price, no? Now, this 1 kilo of meat, okay, for 380 pesos, all right? So I have here some trimmings. Like I said, I have about 100 grams of usable trimmings. Usable, meaning I can do something with it, all right? I have, again, I'm just assuming I have here, for example, 50 grams of skin and about 50 grams of bones, okay? Now, if you look at the screen now, all right, the total trimming weight is about 200 grams. So lahat ito is 200 grams. So I am left with 800 grams of meat, okay, that I can utilize and cook into whatever. But in this case, I'm making my Lechon Kawali. Now, what we're going to do here now, all right, is we are going to try to calculate how much now is this kilo of pork, okay, going to be, assuming we have removed all of these trimmings. Now, at this point, these trimmings are what we call already waste, okay? But again, we're not gonna waste it, huh? I'm just calling it waste, okay? Now, for me to get the price, okay, of this 800 gram piece now, I would actually add up the purchase price, which is 380 pesos, okay? And also the trimmings price, okay, which is 76 pesos. Paano ko nakuha yung 76? Okay, so 50 grams, okay, divided by 380, all right? Sorry, 50 grams divided by 1,000. By the way, make sure you always work with grams. Okay, it's better for costing, better for yield analysis, rather than using kilos. Kilos, di ba? 1 kilo is 1,000 grams. Okay, so you work with grams, all right? It's easier. Okay, so for me to create, to know how much, okay, this 100 gram, this 50 gram trimmings will be, the trimmings, okay, of 50 grams divided by 1,000, okay, so that's the, and then multiplied by the price per unit of how much I got it. So for example, 50 grams divided by 1,000 multiplied by 380, you get 19 pesos. Okay, this is for the 50 grams of skin, same with the 50 grams of the bone. And then for the usable trimmings, it's 100 grams, okay, divided by 1,000 multiplied by 380. Okay, so that's going to be my cost. Usable trimmings, that's basically it's 38 pesos. So again, ang total nung lahat ng trimmings ko is 76 pesos. Are we clear? All right. So 380 plus 76 is now the cost of 800 grams of properly cut, piece of meat. Okay? Now, so alam ko na. So ang total nun ngayon is 456. Again, I add mo 380 plus 76, that's 456. Okay? So ito na yan, 456 pesos na, hindi na 380. Mas mahal na kasi may mga trimmings na. Binayaran ko rin yan. Okay? Binayaran mo yung trimmings na yan. A lot of people don't realize this one, but binayaran mo yan. So that's part of the cost. Now, because I know already how much this cost, I can now break it down further for me to understand and to know how much really is 1 kilo now of this one, okay, of a clean piece of meat. Okay, why do we do that? I'll tell you in a bit. So what we do is we want to know first, how much is it per gram para ma-compute ko yung 1 kilo. So yung 456 pesos, okay, divided by yung 456 divided by 8, okay, is, and then you multiply it by 1,000, that will result in your kilo per kilo. So kung itry ninyo yan, 456 divided by 800 is 0.57. That's 0.57 centavos per gram. So because I want to know per kilo, i-multiply ko lang yan by 1,000. So that would give me 570 pesos. Okay, so yun ngayon is 1 kilo of cleaned meat. The reason why I do that is because pwede kong kausapin ngayon yung aking supplier. So sabihin ko sa kanya, oh, pare, bigyan mo naman ako ng pork. Basta malinis na, ayoko na ng trimmings. Bibiling ko sa'yo ng 570. Basta bigyan mo ako ng malinis. Okay, ayoko na ng mga trimmings na ganito, pwedeng ganon. So that's the reason why we have to understand what the proper weight and proper cost of that piece of meat is. Okay, I hope that's clear. All right, so we could now
Very
start
clear.
cooking this one. So I could break it down further so we could create now a proper selling, a recipe, and then we create a proper selling price. Okay, all right. So ito, tatabi ko lang ito. All right.
All right. Chef Ken,
Okay.
can you hear me?
So now I'm going to create now my Lechon Kawali. Okay, very simple. Some people they like actually the bone together with it. Again, like I said, I don't like it. Now, what I would normally do is I would actually, use the tip of my knife and start breaking it lang. Again, just to parang create holes, no? But later on, I'll create more holes. It's just that this one, it's easier for me to, let flavor go inside, okay, the thick skin. Okay, yan lang. Now, I then add, okay, a couple of ingredients, all right? Now, I'll just clean up my area. Okay, so I have here, all right, some water. It's about 1.5 liters of water. Okay, again, very important. I'm creating a recipe here. Now, when you create a recipe, you have to make sure, you have to try it, you have to do it, you have to try it, and you have to taste it, if it's okay or not. Sometimes you have to add more spices, add more seasoning, etc. So create a proper one. Just write it down and then later on, ilipat ninyo sa sheet that I'll show you later on. Okay, next, I have some salt here. Okay, that's about 25 grams of salt, okay, for this recipe. Okay, again, 800 grams of pork, 25 grams of salt, 1.5 liters of water, okay, about 20 grams of garlic. Okay, I just want to mince or mash. I'll just mash it today. It's for extra flavor, all right? All right. Next, some bay leaves. Okay, 1 or 2 pieces, 2 big ones, it's fine. Okay, some peppercorns, about 2 to 3 grams of peppercorns. Okay, now you could add other spices here. Some people, they would add lemongrass. Okay, today I'm adding oregano. Okay, I like the flavor of oregano in my Lechon Kawali. It just gives it that nice parang meaty flavor. Now at the same time, I'm adding here 2 packs of pro-pack pork broth. Okay, so 2 pieces. Okay, just goes in. All right. Now this one, gives all of that flavor there. Pork flavor, umami, salt, everything is there now. Seasoning. Okay. All right. So what we do now, again, when you are doing a recipe, hindi because I'm trying to look for the cheapest ingredients so I could save on to create a much more better yield, for example. It doesn't mean that because you're saving, it doesn't mean that you're saving the right amount for your profit. No, what I'm trying to say here is cooking method that you apply also has something to do with the yield. Okay, so I give it a good boil. When I say that, with this particular dish, it's just Lechon Kawali. Okay, if I boil this one throughout, even if I put it in a pressure cooker, there's going to be shrinkage, and that shrinkage will be a lot. And that shrinkage would convert into less yield. And less yield means less income, less profit, diba? So make sure that you have to understand really how to cook it properly, okay? And, bring it to a boil and then simmer it. You don't want this to continuously boil. Otherwise, that meat will shrink, okay? And will release a lot of liquid, and your end product will be dry after frying later on. At the same time, konti na lang yan. Yung 800 grams, so baka 400 grams na lang pagka naluto. So what we're trying to achieve here with this 800-gram piece of pork is that we want to cook it, that it becomes dapat parang mga 700 grams pa rin, 650. So we could create 6 to 7 portions out of it, 100-gram portions, okay? So now, I have prepared already one ahead of time because this will take, about an hour, 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on the quality of the pork. Now, what I'll do next is I will fry this one, okay? So I prepared ahead of time, okay, a piece of pork loin. pork belly that I cooked the same process, same thing. Okay, all right. It's about, when I weighed it earlier on, it's about 700 grams. Okay, from 800, meaning I only lost about 100 grams. Why? Because it's good quality meat. Second, I did not allow it to boil. I just allowed it to simmer very slowly. You know, so hindi siya hindi siya nag-shrink na malaki. Okay, so this one now, after 3 hours, I cooled it down, so then I could start cutting it. Okay, now, in this case, you could start poking more holes in the skin, no? This would create actually a nicer, parang crunch, no? Okay, you could use a fork. I'm just using the tip of my ano. Now, the reality here is, again, we want to create more yield, di ba? Luto na to eh. So the more yield we can create, the more plates I can put out, the more profit I could make out of it. Okay, so in this case, I would assume mga 6. Okay, all right. So I'm just slicing it. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm cutting it into 4. All right. Basically, I should be making a 7 portions sana. Okay. But today, I'm just showing you lang in the recipe later on. I'm making it for 7. But here, cut it into 4 lang just to show you how I plate it. So this is about 700 grams kanina. So now that's about 100 and I would say about 170 grams per piece. Okay. So if you are serving this in a restaurant, I think this is a good piece of good size, no? If you're serving it together with some rice, kunwari, and some sidings, then it could be made smaller. You know, mind you, the most expensive item on a plate is always the protein. So try to put in some starch to extend, okay, the cost, no, to make it cheaper. All right. So what I'll do next is I will just fry it. Okay. So while I'm waiting for this, I'm also going to use some condiments to go with it. So I have here some achara, okay, and also some liver sauce. Okay. Now, liver sauce, if you make it yourself, definitely it's going to come out a bit cheaper, but definitely the quality is far better. Okay. So I would rather make my own. But in today's exercise, I'm just using regular store-bought pork sauce.
Can you hear me?
Pork liver sauce. Okay, so
Chef Ken,
let's go now to the recipe, okay, of this dish, and I'll explain it first, and then later on I will just plate it quickly. Okay, Chard, can we go now to the next slide, please? While I'm waiting for this to heat up.
We have some questions, Chef Ken. Can you hear me? Chef Ken, can you hear me?
Okay. If you see your screen now, okay, just to give you a quick breakdown on this, all right? Now, we know already that 1 kilo of our pork is 570 based on the butcher test that we've done. But the yield that we have, 800 grams, okay, is basically 456 pesos. Pero 1 kilo of that nice piece of meat is 570. So if you look at the recipe now, okay, first of all, you have to create a recipe when it's easy to actually understand. So in this case, I have my ingredients, I have my description, I have the quantity, the unit, the price per unit or pack, okay, and then the cost. Now, and then you have the procedure. This one you could actually get it from us. I think we have this one in our website, but we could definitely share this with you. Okay, so when I was doing my R&D with this dish, okay, I was just writing it down, and then eventually I transferred it to this recipe format. Okay, so here I have 800 grams of pork. Okay, and then I added all of those ingredients kanina, diba? I showed you how to put it in. Okay, so for me to create a cost for each individual ingredient, okay, based on the recipe, okay, let's go to the pork. So 800 grams of pork that I used. The price, I added in 570. The price per pack or price per unit, okay, sorry, the weight per unit is 1,000 grams or 1 kilo. Okay, so for me to calculate the cost, I just simply do this equation. I multiply 800, okay, times 570 divided by 1,000, okay, and then you get 456. All right, so it basically computes itself right away. Same thing with the cubes, 20 grams of that, okay, I broke it down again, 259 pesos and 50 centavos for every container pack. So again, isang container is 600. So para makuha ko yung 865, I multiply 20 grams, so 10 grams each of that piece, no? And then I multiply it with 259, and then I divide it by 600, and then you get 865. So the cost of that, dalawang piraso ng aking is 865. So on, so forth, di ba? So yan na yung ating cost. So that's very simple to really calculate. Okay, so it's very important. It's very clear in the recipe. Okay, and also make sure when you have a recipe that everyone can follow. You know, baliwala kung meron kang recipe and then everyone kakamot sila ng ulo. Paano niya ginawa to? Siya lang yata may alam. So try to make a recipe with proper procedures. By that, you're aiming for consistency. So anyone who cooks it will just look at the recipe and follow it, and you will have a consistent product all throughout. Okay? Now,
Yeah, Chef Ken. Can you hear me, Chef Ken? Chef Ken?
Brands,
Can
do
you
you have
hear
any
me?
questions?
Yes, we have a lot of questions. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Your audio output?
Huh?
Can you hear me dun sa speaker mo?
Is there?
Meron, may question. I have
Do
a
you have
question.
any questions?
Okay, so can you hear my question? I will be asking 2 questions. Okay, first question. What would be the proper texture that you can say that the pork is okay to cool down? Can you hear?
Okay, good question. Again, what I do is I try to get to poke a stick or a barbecue stick. Pag hindi na siya sumasama, when you lift it up, then it's a good sign that the pork is nice and tender. So that's one way. Another way would be actually, if you know kasi the quality of meat, most of the time you know how long to cook it. Okay, so for example, I know my quality of meat. This is an important piece of meat. I know within 3 hours it gets really nice and tender. Okay, so sometimes kasi mga local, it's so difficult to parang gauge lang.
Has to be for tender, right, Chef? Diba? Or
Yeah.
sakto lang kasi ipa-fry mo pa siya eh.
Yes, you don't want it to be too soft, otherwise it becomes too mushy, diba?
Oo. Okay. So I hope we answered that question. Kung sino man yung nagtanong noon. I have another question, Chef. So the next question is, did you shock the pork after boiling, or did you let it cool in the chiller or in the fridge?
Okay, that's a good question actually. What I would normally do, right, is that I would actually cool it down in the stock itself for Lechon Kawali. Simply anything, you have to remember, anything that is braised, stewed, poached, tastes better the next day or the day after. So marinating it in its own cooking stock, okay, for another day to cool down, that's the best. Okay, but again, if you don't have the means to do it, sometimes we're so limited in the house, for example, or in the restaurant, then we could just cool it down right away in ice water, okay? Or you could just put it dun sa I would actually do it in a different way, wherein I'd get an electric fan, like the Chinese, di ba, na hinahang nila yung so that the products would dry. Because with this type of dish, what you want is to have a crispy skin. And for you to get that crispy skin, you want to dry it off first, okay? And drying it off, okay, by means of putting a fan, okay, in front of it, that's the best. That's the best way, okay?
Yeah. So I hope na sagot po yun. Maraming technique actually ang Lechon Kawali. Kanya-kanyang technique yan. Ang dami, as in. Even if you go to Ilocos, no? Ang dami. Yung bagnet, kanya-kanyang style. I think every family has their own drying technique when they make Lechon Kawali.
I think, Chef Brando, for me personally, okay, when I fry, okay, that's also a very important step. Again, cooking method is something that you really have to take into consideration. When you fry, you have to make sure that the temperature of your oil, okay, is about 190 degrees for In this case, for lechon kawali, a high temperature, 190 to 200. You want to shock it right away in hot oil. Otherwise, if the oil is about 170 lower, it has the tendency to absorb the oil. Now, again, for fat frying, make sure the temperature of oil should be in the range of 180 degrees. Okay, standard yan. Again, I am searing at a higher temperature. Okay, now what type of oil should I use? I'm using here vegetable oil. You could use pork oil or purito, they call it, or pork lard. That's even better. Same like the Ilocanos use, diba? For bagnet. Again, high temperature is the key for a really nice lechon kawali. Plus, it doesn't get to shrink too much, because it's nice and hot. It right away caramelizes the part, the outside part.
Another question, Chef Ken. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So again, frying technique shared by Chef Ken. So there's another question here. I think it is taking off from your technique wherein you place the cooked pork sa ref. New question, but isn't there carryover heat, or do you compensate for that?
Okay. Yung pagkaluto, no? Okay.
Yes, after you
right.
simmered it.
Yeah, the thing is, I simmered it gently. Yung temperature about 85, 88, 90 max degrees. So it's really below boiling point, no? So nakita mo na yung bula, konti lang. So the good thing there is the carryover cooking, okay, that happens is hindi ganun kataas. Okay, mababa na lang siya. So for it to reach a cool temperature, it would take siguro maybe an hour, pero slowly na lang, lalamig na yun. Unlike pag yung pinakuluan mo siya, di ba? Kailangan, tuloy-tuloy, kumukulo siya, mas mataas yung temperature nun. So most likely, by the time it cools down, it's already overcooked. In this case, because I just simply gently poached it, so I have a better temperature control. Okay, as it cools down. Yeah.
So warm lang talaga siya. So that's a good answer.
Okay, sorry, Brams.
Yeah. And then again, as with anything, as with any cooking technique, you will just have to, diba, adjust. So that's a good point, no, chef? Kasi nga mababa lang yung temperature mo. So by the time it reaches a chiller temperature, yung carryover cooking niya hindi naman ganun kataas compared to, savoring at 165.
But definitely, you could shock it in ice water. Don't get me wrong. It's also a good way to do it. Okay?
All right.
It's a good way.
Nakakagutom yan. Mukhang masarap yung dinner mo.
Well, yeah. The thing kasi with lechon kawali, I love bagnet. For me, that's my favorite. Diba? It's just that for me, I think for lechon kawali, minsan may parang kahit paano may konting guilt-free may guilt-free moments kapag kumakain ka nito. Diba? Kasi pinakuluan mo naman eh. Diba? Hindi mo siya niluto sa oil directly, no? Yeah. So again, you could see, no, the temperature. Also, a good tip here, for you to maintain that proper heat, you make sure you cook in small batches. Don't cook everything all at the same time, unless you have a big container or a bigger frying vat. Okay, then go. Pero pag ganito sa bahay, or home businesses, for example, if you don't have the luxury of having these equipment, the industrial equipments, then I would suggest that you cook it in smaller quantities. Okay.
So, Chef Ken, another question.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for another question? Ito yata, baka may napanood silang YouTube. How about po yung pinalambot muna yung karne, tapos bubuhusan ng kumukulong oil? Totoo po bang crispy yun? Nakita ko lang po sa YouTube. Yan.
Yeah. Actually, that's also something that people do. They
pagkaluto, all right? Kaya nakita nyo kanya, di ba, prinik ko siya. And that pagka-prick ko ng skin, okay, what happens is, the steam will naturally vent out when you fry it. And that would create that blister. Kaya minsan may makikita ka pumuputok. The more butas ang inilagay mo, and the drier the skin, parang chicharon. Di ba, chicharon, balat yan eh. But it's been cooked, and then eventually dried a little bit, and then fried. Kaya siya sumusabog ng ganon. It's the same technique here. Now, pouring very hot oil actually works. Why? Because the temperature, okay, from inside is cooler sa labas, di ba? Kasi sa labas. Naturally, when you pour hot oil, really hot oil, what happens is the steam will vent out. Okay, and eventually, puputok-putok yun, and that makes it more crispy. So yes, you can do that. But ang problem naman doon, delikado kasi if you don't have, if you're doing it, for example, in a small kitchen, that could create a hazard because you're handling oil and pouring hot oil. Delikado, nakakatakot. Okay, so unless you're really, you really know what you're doing, then go. But important in the end, it's crispy, di ba? So, yan.
Yeah. So before you proceed, Chef Ken, I would just like to...
My lechon kawali now is cooked, okay? So you could see, it's like, pag lumamig yan, very crunchy. Okay, now very important at this stage is that you could sprinkle some salt while it's still hot coming from the fryer. Okay, don't sprinkle salt when it's cold already. Make sure from the fryer, put the salt. Why? Because the salt will not stick when this is already cold. Then you put the salt, it will not stick. So put the salt now. Me, personally, I don't like it too salty because I have my sauce anyway. I'm watching my sodium intake. Plus, I used already my Knorr cubes, and that contains a lot of flavor and a lot of, that gives the right amount of sodium for me personally. Okay. Now, so I have here my condiments. All right. And at the same time, I have my lechon kawali. Okay. So the lechon kawali, if you're serving it in a carinderia or in a restaurant, good to slice it into smaller pieces, thin pieces. Why? It just looks more. Second, it's better to eat rather than chunks. Okay, that's my take sa ano. Okay, so I'll just, it's a very simple dish. Now, I just showed you this one because I want to share with you the costing lang, no? Okay, so that's my lechon kawali. Now, later on in the costing, this is good for one portion yan. But if you want to create a good margin for profit at the same time create a good selling price, I think this is good for two, personally. Okay, I could add some rice just to extend it, dalawang rice or something, parang sharing sila. That's one way of doing it. Okay, I just wanted to share with you a simple dish and how to create a proper costing. Okay, so I have here achara. Okay, make your own achara. Again, it's cheaper. Okay, anything that you make most of the time comes out cheaper. You just have to do the right recipe, cut it right, source it out right, and you will end up with a much more better, cheaper tasting condiment in this case. So those are my 2 cents with this dish. Now, are you going to talk about something, Brands, before we go on the breakdown of this dish?
Yeah. Before anything else, we would like to say thank you and hi to those who are participating this afternoon. Mag-hi ka, Chef Ken. Meron someone from Australia daw nag-tune in, from down under.
Hello. So, good afternoon there.
Good afternoon in Australia.
Thank you for joining us today.
And to the other participants who have graciously joined us this afternoon, I hope this session is very helpful. Hindi pa tayo tapos. We'd also like to, if you have any questions yung nasa Q&A, you can also plug, I think, your mga businesses. If you're a food business owner, you have an online business, feel free to just chat in the Q&A, and we'd love to know you more, in anything we can help you with. So yun lang muna. And okay, any more questions from our
Chef Brando, I'm so happy this really materialized. Now, for everyone watching, this is the first of many. Okay, and today basically we're just talking about food costing, and because it's a very important thing that we have to tackle for you to understand the entire business, no. But in the next few more sessions that's going to be coming after this, expect us doing more, mouth-watering dishes, and inspirational dishes as well. No? Okay, but definitely costing. First thing, ika nga, parang baby yan. Before a baby starts to walk, una upo muna yan bago mag-crawl, di ba? So that's the sitting down part that we're doing now. Okay.
Actually, this costing session is very helpful to a lot of our operators. No, we've gotten insights nga na talagang essential to, di ba? Kasi essential ang lugaw. Kasi ano siya di ba? You go into business, syempre, at the end of the day, you want to see your bank account, di ba, grow with profit. Exactly. So, yeah. So, baka palala-move mo naman yung lechon kawali na yan. No?
Okay, so are we going to share now? Okay, let's
All
now
right. The recipe.
before we wrap things up, okay, I want to break down now the recipe so I could show you how to create a selling price for this. Okay, so with the recipe, we've broken it down. We know already the cost of each ingredient. Okay, and if you look at the yield, it says here 7. Okay, depending on how much you think you can get out of that 800 grams, then you add it in. Now, in this case, we're assuming 7 portions, kumare. Just assuming. Okay? So for 7 portions, that's the recipe I did today. Okay? Now, if I suma total it, if I total everything, the total food cost for me to create 7 portions, okay, is how much is that? 538.62 pesos. So that's how much to create 7 portions of, or 800 grams of, 700 grams of cooked pork belly. Okay. Now, 538, I divide that one into 7 because assuming, again, I'm just assuming that we can create 7 portions. Okay, so if I divide 538.62 divided by 7, I get now, how much is that? 76.95. Okay, so 538.62 divided by 7 is 76.95. That's the cost of 1 portion of lechon kawali. Okay, assuming I'm serving it for 7 packs this recipe. All right. Now, because we want to know now, we have already our food cost. Okay, our food cost, like we said earlier, 35%. Because we know already our food cost per portion, which is 76.95, how much should I sell it? There's 2 ways to go around, creating a selling price. I'll teach you first the traditional way how we do it, wherein we just basically add on, okay, a markup price, diba? Going back to my earlier discussion with the hamburger, 100 peso, 35 pesos still is to create the hamburger, 65 pesos is for the others. It's a markup that includes also the profit. So in this case, I want to create my selling price. So the very simple solution to do that is, the formula is that your food cost per serving, which is 76.95 pesos, okay, you divide that by the food cost percentage, which is 35%. It's 35 divided by 35. That's the food cost you want to achieve, right? So, and then you multiply it by 100 to create a value. Kasi pag hindi, percent yan. To create a value, you multiply it by 100, then you will have 219.84 pesos. Okay? So that's the cost now, the selling price, the cost. So basically the cost, okay, the markup equals the selling price. Cost plus markup equals the selling price. Okay, so which means, dun sa 76 pesos na yan, na food cost, okay, I'm selling it for 219.84. Okay, so I could get, a good profit. Now, I'll show you later on. Can we move now to the next slide, or should we talk about something first before we break it down further?
So may nagtanong dito, Chef Ken, tungkol doon sa recipe ng iyong lechon kawali. I think yung nagtanong, pwede nyo munang screenshot to. Pwede nyo picturean. I think I'll give you 10 seconds muna. I think, take a photo of this recipe. So if you'll notice the recipe, I'll just break down the ingredients. No? So there's pork liempo, there's Knorr pork cubes professional pack, or what we call the pro pack. Bay leaves, peppercorns, garlic, oregano, salt water, oil for frying. So that's the recipe. So take a screenshot, and I would like to emphasize or highlight our product used in this recipe. I personally would always add the Knorr pork cubes, either in the broth-based form or in this time, yung professional pack. Okay, so yung professional pack namin na pork cubes, yan po yun, no? If you saw the recipe ni Chef Ken, yung procedure niya, nilagay niya yan sa water. So me, I also add this to boost the porky flavor of the liempo. And I also add this pag gumagawa ako ng crispy pata, even sa pork adobo. So this pork cubes professional pack ng Knorr, if you're going to get it, the unit per piece tub is 259 pesos and 50 cents. If you're going to get the case, so mga nasa 2,076. Okay, so this is totally different from the yung mga tingi-tingi nakikita nyo sa tindahan or yung mga nasa retail, this is the professional pack. 600 grams siya. So maganda na ito, once na maubos nyo yan, meron kayong lalagyan ng baon. Okay? Pwede nyo i-reuse yung container or lagyan nyo ng spices. So reusable, so sinusupport nyo pang sustainability, di ba? So we have pork, we have beef, and we have chicken. So take note, it's 259.50 for the tub and 2,076 for the 8 pieces kung marami kayong gagawa ng inyong pork liempo. Okay? So that's the Knorr pork cubes. Now, if you want to order, we would also like to feature our UFS web shop. Okay? You go to our website and then merong ufs.com /shop. You can order straight from our UFS web shop in 5 easy steps. So syempre, you have to select your location so we know who the distributor ang cater sa inyo. So select your city. And then, number 2, syempre, add to cart. No? Pero hindi kami niyan. Hindi lang ang ibang online selling. Meron kami niyan, add to cart. So scroll through your complete assortment. And then, hindi lang pork cubes. Marami din kami. Syempre, kami rin po gumagawa ng Knorr liquid seasoning tsaka mga Ladies' Choice products. So it's there. Add to cart and then check out. And then, ang 4th step is yun po, create an account. Input your personal details to submit your order. So this is important so we know where to deliver your products. And finally, order confirmation. You will receive an email from Unilever Food Solutions confirming your order. So order na kayo ng pork, ng Knorr pork professional cubes. And I think we have any more questions apart from our products. More questions, you can contact Saki, our Customer Development Executive, 0908-880-7617. So yun nga, kung gusto nyo umorder ng liquid seasoning, gusto nyo umorder ng Ladies' Choice Real Mayonnaise, pork cubes, and a lot more. So yun po. So take note of the UFS web shop. And back to you, Chef Ken.
Thanks, Chef
Lechon
Brando.
Kawali.
Yeah, by the way, also you have to take into consideration, when you're using our products, our products really are, for me, personally, it's the best. Why? I don't have to use so much ingredients to create a good dish. I just use that broth, for example, and that creates so much flavor right away. And that cuts my recipe to lessen down my ingredient list recipe. I just use our products because it's all there. Flavors are all there. It's a simple step that you just have to do. Okay, just add it in. All right. Now, let's now go back to, again, ideal food cost percentage and eventually creating the selling price. So we did that already. So we know what our selling price is. Okay. Again, the ideal food cost is 35%. So in this example, this procedure that we've done today, okay, just to give context to what I've been explaining, all this time, the selling price is very important. So out of 220, again, I rounded it up already. So 220 pesos is our selling price now to create a 35% food cost. Okay? Now, in that 220 pesos, 77 pesos doon is ang food cost natin, di ba? Yun ang ginamit natin to create the dish. Now, the remainder of that, the 65% of that 220 pesos, ito na yung broken down values niya. So for the operating cost, again, we said kanina 20% is a good margin. For the overhead cost, 30% is a good margin. And for your income, or for your profit, 15% is a good margin. Okay, now, 20%, okay, of 220 pesos is 44 pesos. So yun yung tinatabi ko for my operating cost. That would pay off my labor eventually. That would pay off, equipment, whatever, things that I have to pay extra. And then the overhead cost, 30% of the 220 is 66 pesos, which means that 66 pesos, tatabi ko na yan for the end of the month. Kasi magabayad ako ng rent, magabayad ako ng, I'll be paying my utilities, etc. Okay, so kaagad, 66 pesos. And then, because I prepared a nice Lechon Kawali and eventually sell it at the right price, then I could make out 33 pesos out of it. Okay, so that's my profit. That goes into my pocket. Okay, again, like I said earlier, a lot of people think whatever markup they put after the food cost, they think it's already income. It's not. Okay, you have to keep on putting margins, okay? And eventually create your own formula. This formula that I'm showing you now is how to compute the food cost and eventually creating a selling price. But in reality, you create your own formula. You play around with this procedure that I've shown you. So for example, if I want to make my profit larger, okay, so kung yung 33 pesos ko, gusto ko taasan, then I will have to make sure baka ibaba ko yung food cost ko. That's one. I could make a 30% food cost instead. Okay, or I could, save on, for example, instead of hiring extra hands, I'll just do it myself first for the time being. Para hindi ako kahit maglagay ako ng margin, okay, that money is going somewhere. Don't think na because ikaw na yung gumawa, you're not going to pay yourself. Margins are there to stay. Margins are there to be made and to be followed. So always put a price on that. Put a value, put an amount. Okay, so pay yourself. I'm not saying lagay mo sa bulsa mo. You put it aside. Okay, kasi kumaga binayaran mo yung sarili mo kasi nagtrabaho ka. So that in the end, magugulat ka na lang end of the month pag nag-compute ka, wow, may extra money ako. Saan ang galing to? Doon sa savings na ginawa mo sa pagtipid mo sa operating costs mo, for example. Overhead costs, medyo mahirap talaga galawin yan because those are fixed costs. Unless, ikaw yung nag-cook sa'yo yung lugar and then you pay, for example, rent. You have to put value pa rin. Kahit sa'yo yung lugar, okay, hindi ka nagbabayad ng rent, you still have to put a rent. You still have to put a number. Okay, hindi pwedeng hindi. And that's mostly the common things a lot of people who go into the business do. They do it wrong, like doing like that. Kailangan talaga you put figures in everything that you do. It's a numbers game, guys. No? Okay, so those are things. Now, another way of actually creating a selling price, and this is what I personally do, okay, is that I do it the other way around. Okay, di ba, since we know already our food costs, then we could create a selling price, di ba? 35%, ito yung selling price natin. Now, sometimes it can come out a bit expensive if you're doing the traditional format because of the competition that you have outside. Labanan na yan, ang dami ng may Lechon Kawali, so naglalabanan sila sa price. And what happens is they disrupt the price war. Binabagsak nila yung presyo. In the end, they go for volume. Okay, benta ako mas marami, in the end, kikita rin ako ng ganyan. Ganun din. But in reality, you're disrupting the process. No? So what we would do normally is I would actually research sino ba sa area, sa vicinity ko that serves the Lechon Kawali. Sino ba? And I would try them out. And then I would get and list down the prices. So you create an average of all the price. Base your price on what the market dictates. Okay? Kung kaya nila dun sa area mo magbayad ng 200 para sa isang Lechon Kawali, dun ka lang. Pero kung nasa Makati ka, kaya nila magbayad ng 500 para sa isang ganito, they price it higher depending on your market. So that's another way to go around things. Know your market, get the idea on how much the market is willing to pay, and then you work patalikod. So for example, if in my market, for example, in my area, Fairview, they're only willing to pay 100 pesos kunwari. So what do? Diba? 77 yung pesos yung cost natin dito sa pag-produce ko itong Lechon Kawali ko. Paano naman yan? Parang 30 pesos na lang yung kikitain ko, 27 pesos na lang. So what I do is I will work, backwards. So I might even source out cheaper meat, hindi ako mag-imported. Or I would siguro add more starch on a plate to extend the dish, konti lang yung protein ko. So many things to do, okay, that you could actually bring down the cost. But in the end, it's all about value, guys. Do not
Substitute value because ito lang yung kayang bayaran ng iyong kliyente. No, you have to still give proper value to and quality to your dish because, consistently you want to create a good business, and without value and quality, forget it. To last you 6 months, then you'll close business. So if you have good quality, people will follow you, business will be booming, and eventually it will be good for your pocket, diba? That's my 2 cents on how to create a selling price. Know your market. Okay?
Okay.
So yon.
We can go to the questions.
There's no.
Okay, can you hear me, Chef Ken?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
so before thank you for the review and the wrap. We'll go into the questions. So kung meron pa kayong pahabol na questions, meron dito mga nagtatanong. So I will just read some and then I can share the answers with Chef Ken as well. Kasi yung iba, pwede rin natin sagutin. So the first question, Chef. Ito, interested do sa product. Available
Okay.
po ba yung 4 cubes professional pack sa Lazada and Shopee?
Oh yeah, of course. Nowadays, digital our e-commerce is booming. Okay, all of our products, it's
Okay.
all there.
So,
Personally, ako Shopee fan ako, Shopee Lazada fan ako. Everything doon na ako bibili. Hindi na ako punta ng supermarket. I just go and buy it from them.
okay, so apart from the UFS web shop, our products are available in Lazada and Shopee. So another question, Chef Ken, ano po ang pinakaiba ng Knorr Cubes professional pack sa Knorr Cubes na nakalagay sa maliit na box? So I think I can answer this. Sagutin ko na to, Chef Ken. So yung
Sure.
nabibili nyo pong maliliit na nasa box, yung tinatawag nating retail. In terms of formulation, pareho po sila ng formulation. It's just that mas makakatipid kayo pag bumili kayo nung naka-tub. At least mga 10% ang matitipid nyo. Because one tub is 60 pieces. And kung malakas bang po kayo gumamit nun, mas makakatulong sa negosyo nyo yung isang tub. So 10% less and syempre pareho pa rin naman po yung formulation niya. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, Chef Brown, sorry, I forgot to tell. Can you just quickly lang para lang
Okay.
sa recap ko kanina. By the
Sure,
way,
sure.
when you are doing a proper costing, pag gumagawa ka ng recipe mo, try to make sure you get prices from retail. Okay? Huwag yung wholesale prices. For example, if you are buying peppercorns, kumari, get the retail price. Huwag yung wholesale. Kasi normally, retail price, they have 30 to 40% markup already. Which means, in your recipe alone, if you're using retail prices, you already have a bigger buffer. Okay? So, in essence, yung ginawa kong recipe na to, mamumura pa yan kasi hindi pa ako nag-wholesale price. Okay? So, just a rule of thumb. Always get yung market or supermarket prices just to get a proper parang extra margin if you may. Okay? So, yun lang. Sorry.
Magandang, no worries. Kasi sakto yung sinabi mo, Chef Ken. Kasi may tanong din ulit. What is the price difference if I buy from the wholesale supermarket and your distributor, especially if you have to pay the SF? So, ang tanong kasi rito is, yun nga, wholesale price. Sinagot na ni Chef Ken yun eh. You will save. Pag bumili ka ng wholesale, save up to 20% when you order from the UFS web shop or direct from our suppliers or our distributors. And syempre, meron ding free shipping if you buy from the web shop. So take note of that. So again, another question. Medyo marami to, Chef Ken. Sandali. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Ito. Another question. Ito to. Chef, service charge ba kasama po sa overhead cost?
That's a good question. Actually, dapat hindi, no? Because normally you would add in pa. But in the restaurant standard kasi, okay, service charge you add on, okay, plus tax pa. Diba? Kaya sa hotel plus. No, meron silang service charge, meron pa silang local taxes. So normally you would actually ask service charge, okay, in fine dining restaurants kasi di ba may mga extra services na ginagawa sila doon. So normally they would put that on top of your selling price.
Okay. So next question, Chef Ken. I think ito kayang sagutin mo. Ilan po ang sodium content ng isang cube? But I think it's really more of the technical side. Yung insights mo na lang, Chef Ken, pagdating sa sodium content ng ating mga cubes.
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, that's something that I really take value on, is the amount of sodium intake, no, when you're cooking. I hope I'm not saying the wrong information here, but we are only allowed to have 2,500 milligrams of sodium intake a day, diba? So yun ang standard na dapat kinakain ng isang tao. And that's about what? Roughly about a teaspoon of salt lang dapat. Okay? Now, with our products kasi, it has less salt in the sense that you're not putting salt directly. Salt is included in our products. Okay? There's sodium in it. But if I'm using that, for example, if I am seasoning, if I'm using chicken powder to season a piece of chicken and then I'm grilling it, if I use just parang 1/4 teaspoon of that, okay, to season the entire bird or the entire chicken, that's super less sodium, okay, in one one dose of salt or one teaspoon of salt. So using products like ours, for example, lowers down the amount of sodium intake. I'm not saying it's removing it. It's just that we are controlling it. Me, that's personally how I feel about it. And it's a good question, but honestly, I don't have the exact amount of sodium content per cube or per bouillon, depending on the SKU kasi. No? So, but that's a good question.
Right.
Again, less salt. Yeah, less salt.
Okay, my 2 cents with the salt. We in Unilever have been reformulating our products so that it meets the highest nutritional standards worldwide. So we abide by the global standards of the highest nutrition standards. So in terms of sodium, controlled and meteor. So I hope that's one. I hope we answered that. And let me check. Okay. Okay. So may mga nagtatanong if they can watch the replay of this. I think you can just answer yung sa Q&A natin kasi marami dito, may late yata pumasok. So kailangan nilang i-review. So I think may recording to, and get in touch with our tech guys, si Isabel. Nandun siya sa Q&A and you can send you the link. And finally, I think I can answer the question ni Erwin kasi yung tanong niya tungkol sa Knorr gravy. So Erwin, tinatanong mo kasi yung Knorr gravy dilution. I think if I'm correct, sabi mo kinukuha nyo pa, sinusource nyo sa Thailand yung gravy nyo. Check our website and our web shop. We have the local version of the Knorr gravy mix. Ang dilution namin doon is usually 110 grams to 1 liter of water or half liter of water, half liter of milk. And also check out our website for more recipes and inspiration. So, sandali may marami pa daw question. So hopefully, Erwin, makita mo yon. But meron kami, check the web shop. Merong Knorr gravy mix doon. Favorite SKU ko yon, lalo na sa burger steak.
Super. And also the flavor is totally different, spot on, di ba?
Sa Thailand yata natikman ko, medyo peppery yung kanya. So if you're sourcing your gravy from Thailand, we have a counterpart here in the local market, Knorr gravy mix. So meron pa bang question, Madam Isabel? So we're kind of going through the last few questions.
Sorry, I think there was one question. There was one question, how to compute for a buffer sa price? If there's a price increase, how can you compute? Earlier, I said kanina, di ba, when you're doing your costing, di ba, you get your prices from the supermarket. So right away, you get a 30% parang
buffer.
Buffer
for the
na yan.
Price increase. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that could, you could use that. Okay, or you could again parang create a value for that in your formula. But again, if you are sourcing out your ingredients first for your dry run, for your recipe in supermarkets, that would right away give you a buffer. So kung magka-price increase man, di ba, that's a good thing. For example, with pork, di ba, dati 250 ang kilo. Ngayon, magkano na? 380 pesos per kilo. So hopefully, bumaba na naman. Okay, so right away, kahit paano, may buffer ka na ginawa dun sa ibang ingredients mo. Di ba?
Okay, so thank you for that. No, again, you will have to protect your costings with those buffer para safe ka. So kahit na mag-price increase, may fluctuation, safe ka. Okay, may tanong pa dito. I think I can answer this question. Is chicken powder, they have the same formulation with the chicken bouillon. So if ever you're talking about the chicken bouillon, that is the chicken cube. So normally, if you're saying the chicken cube, that's what we use for making stocks, soups, and we add it for sauces. For the chicken powder naman po, ibang formulation nun kasi seasoning po siya. Pang-season siya. So medyo mas mataas ang sodium content niya, pero mas chicken po ang flavor niya. So chicken powder is the seasoning, the chicken bouillon or the chicken cube is our soup base or stock base. Okay, and available din po siya sa web shop namin at Lazada and Shopee. Okay, so may tanong pa dito. Sadali ah. Okay, chef, I do deliver my food, but how can I earn a little higher? I think ayan. Delivery to, chef. So paano kung medyo tataas ng konti yung profit mo kung nasa online delivery ka? Meron ka bang tip?
Ngayon kasi di ba in talaga yung delivery, and I think that's the way to go with a lot of our food service restaurants, and also our all of our clients. No? They really go into food delivery now. In fact, it's a booming business. And the thing is, if you're doing in small scale, minsan napapamahal ka. Kasi nga, for you to buy, let's say, for example, boxes. Iba pag bumili ka ng 1,000, iba pag bumili ka ng 100. Ang laki ng difference kaagad. So, you have to take this into consideration. But definitely, you can price it a bit higher because of the packaging. Now, earlier I said, that's also part of the operating cost. Now, you could put that operating cost mo, yung packaging mo, because that's what's needed for you to create your business. So that could be part of that. So that buffer could be shared with your labor expenses, etc. So that you could actually just maybe increase the price higher, or tell me if I'm wrong, kapatid. Some people, they would actually add on a delivery charge, diba? So if you're selling it for 220, if you're having it delivered, they'll charge you for 250. May mga ganun eh. No? So you play around with your market, you know your market, and also try to source out yung mga delivery packaging cheap. Okay, when I say cheap, it doesn't have to be flimsy. It has to be parang biodegradable. For all you know, baka nga yung banana leaves, that could also be used as a takeaway container. A lot of people are actually using yung mga woven pandan leaves or coconut leaves. They weave it into a box and then they put it in there. Maraming ways.
Yeah.
Marami.
Right. Thank you, Chef Ken. And I think there are more questions coming up, but in the interest of time, we will answer them in our Facebook Messenger. So please like our Unilever Food Solutions PH Facebook page. And again, if you have any questions, we will be glad to answer it in the FB Messenger. Kasi meron pang tanong dito tungkol sa smoking pork ribs. Ang tanong niya, Chef Ken,
gagawin natin yan.
Ano mas-suggest nyo product for smoked meat for dry rub? Bestseller po kasi namin is smoked pork ribs. So whoever asked that, please type it in the messenger and we will answer. Currently, yun nga, nagsusmoke si Chef Ken. And habi niya yan mag-smoke. So marami pa po. So I think with that, final word, Chef Ken, before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Something short and sweet.
Again, thank you. Super thank you for making this happen. I'm so glad it actually it happened, and we've been waiting for this for the longest time for me personally. And thank you for gracing us with today's first episode, And for me, it's one of the most important things because the next episodes, it's all about cooking. Okay, of course, please feel free to get in touch with us. Okay. We're always here to support, to inspire, and we want you to progress with your own business. So, UFS, we're just a phone call away.
Okay, so again, thank you so much, Chef Ken, for that very insightful demo and lecture on food costing. On behalf, dun din pala, may pahabol pa. Ito, before I end, if you have any topics na gusto nyong i-discuss sa ating mga participants, please shoot us a DM, or get in touch with us. You want more food costing, you want more cooking techniques, by all means, we will be gladly teaching you new recipes. Marami kami niyan sa ufs.com. And so I think we've covered almost everything unless na meron pa. So it's 5:30 on my watch. Sakto tayo, hard close. On behalf of Unilever Food Solutions Philippines, the entire team, Richard, Isabel, Lorraine, Saki, Chef Kenneth, Cacho, the culinary team, the entire team of Unilever Food Solutions Philippines. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. I am Chef Brando Santos. We'll see you again soon in the next Unilever Food Solutions Masterclass. Thank you.
All right. Okay.